Now we are coming to the last topic. It's over. Okay. So we discussed the central government finances. We discussed the state government finances. Now we are going to combine together. Not we, economic survey is combining. Okay. General government finances. When we say general government, it is combined government. Central government and state government together. It is showing a trend. It is showing a trend. A trend has been shown. What it is? Gross fiscal deficit. This blue color. Gross fiscal deficit is center and state fiscal deficit combined together to GDP. Okay. It is coming around in percentage of GDP. In 2012-13. Approximately near to 7%. It's almost steady there. 6.9. Then, so till 16-17 it was like this. Combined gross fiscal deficit is in the range of 6.9%, 7 to 6.9%. But in 17-18 the government were able to bring down, because 17-18 is see. So they were able to implement it, okay. GST made a big difference to their 17-18, 18-19 and other reforms been taken, okay. We were able to bring down to 5.8 gross fiscal deficit. But 19-20, there is a sudden increase because of slowdown and lower tax collection plus corporate tax cut, everything is there. So, but 2021 estimated to reduce it to 6.3. Is it possible in 2021? No. So, have an idea what is the combined, see our combined gross fiscal deficit, center and the state have moved in the range of, you can say that between 5.8 to 6.9% till 1920. Till 1920. But 2021, things will break everything. Because already we know that center alone is 9.5% of GDP. So that's the reason I am telling why this year public finance is so important. It is once in a lifetime happening. In our life, this will be once upon a time. So that makes this year prelims, hopefully. Okay, that's the reason why for this year prelims, this topic is very, very important for you. Now, that's regarding gross fiscal deficit. The revenue deficit, it's not that important, but have an idea. It moved between 3.5 in the range of, it moved between, you can say that 2.3 to 3.5. Just what is the movement? But again, that will break in 2021. Now, the combined general government total debt, that is moved from, in this range, see look at this, it moved from, combined debt moved nearly between 67, from 67, take here, look into this side, 67, it moved to 68.9, 69.8, 70.5, 73.8, but in 2021 it will be beyond that. We are expecting around 80%, 50 plus 30. It's approximate. So this trend also you keep in mind regarding the general, don't get confused, okay, general government, we are talking about general government, that is central government and state government combined, okay. Now we'll see that what is the economic survey talking about it. Economic survey says that the general government liability as a proportion of GDP exhibit an increasing trend over the last few years. Yes or no? Yes. Increasing trend over the last few years. In the 2021 budget estimate, the general government has budgeted for a reduction in the deficit in the 1920. But it is now not valid. There is no point to discuss about it. Changed. So it says that, okay, in the wake of this global pandemic outbreak, the general government is expected to register a fiscal slippage. You know what is fiscal slippage? What is the target and what is the actual will be different. The set fiscal target as well as the actual fiscal target, means actual fiscal target will be higher than, and we already know it. So it is clearly saying, so see, I told you this fiscal slippage term is very important in this year. So there will be, you are expected to register a fiscal slippage on account of shortfall in revenue as well as higher expenditure. We have seen that what is this higher expenditure? As indicated by the enhanced borrowing. So center and the state is going for a higher borrowing for the year 2021. The liabilities of this general government are expected to increase. Surely it will increase. Not expected, it will increase. This deviation, so this will deviate the path of fiscal consolidation recommended by early FRBM Act as well as by the FRBM committee report. So there will be a deviation from the path of fiscal consolidation. But it is saying that this deviation from the fiscal consolidation path is transient, means it is temporary, and it will go back to the normal level when the economy recover. And we are expecting economy to be recovering from the 21-22 financial year. Okay, this is what then the medium and long term trajectory of the government debt will depend upon the debt sustainability calculation. This is a word being used, okay. I'll explain. So, survey says that the medium and long term government debt is dependent upon the debt sustainability calculation. This debt sustainability calculation is measured. There's a figure is there. That figure will, with the figure will able, okay. So this word is very important, okay. Whether the debt is sustainable. What do you mean by debt sustainable means? Whether the debt can be serviced. That servicing the debt is very important. Servicing the debt means whether the government can pay the interest regularly, and when the bond becomes matured, central government security becomes matured, whether the government can pay back the principal. Okay. So whether the debt is sustainable or not, we can understand from if by looking into this indicator, that is by looking into interest rate growth differential. So we will see that over a period of time, what is the interest rate of the government securities? What is the GDP growth? What is the difference between the interest rate and GDP growth? And based on that, so it is saying that if we are having I'll explain it, okay, I'll show the figure, okay. If the economic survey says that if we are having a negative interest rate growth differential, negative interest rate growth difference means the difference between the economic growth rate as well as the interest rate. And if it is negative, then it is the foundation for lower general government debt. So the government debt, the general government debt as a GDP will be lower if the differential between the interest rate and the growth rate is negative. This you will understand it from this figure. Okay. Economic survey is giving the trends in the interest rate growth differential of the general government. So we will see one by one, and then we will see what is the differential. First you see the year. They are given the year from financial year 11-12 up to 19-20. This is about state government or state general government? General government, okay. Now see the interest rate. What is the interest rate for these general governments? It includes the central government as well as state government securities interest rate. So if you notice one thing, the interest rate is declining over a period of time. Means it declined a bit higher, so it moved in the 8% range, then it moved into the 7% range, then it went to 6.97, but it went again increased. So there is no general trend. But if you compare to 2011-12, in 19-20, it is lesser. Who is the reason behind this lowering the interest rate? There are many factors there. It is mainly the RBI. RBI is doing many things, okay. So RBI, by using many market instruments like open market operations, Operation Twist. Recently, few years back, just 2 years back, RBI introduced Operation Twist. It has RBI have able to bring down the interest rate for the government securities, both central and state government, because RBI is both the debt manager to the central government and state government. Okay, so the interest rate is, you can say that it have not increased from the peak, it were brought down. Okay, and now due to this, and it is also linked with the repo rate. Now repo rate is at the lowest level, it's at 4%. So current, the government, if you look into 2021, the interest rate is lower than this. Even though we are borrowing more, RBI were able to bring down lower, because it is always linked with the repo rate. Repo rate is at the lowest, record lowest level, 4%. Now look into the nominal, nominal GDP growth. In budget calculation, in financial calculation, we always take nominal GDP growth. So this is the nominal GDP growth over the year. So nominal GDP growth have declined. See, we were above 10% in all the year except 1920. Because in 1920, our real GDP growth was 4%. See how you will get nominal GDP growth now? Add inflation to the, or reduce inflation to the nominal GDP growth, you will get real GDP. Inflation rate of that particular year. This is the difference, nominal GDP and real GDP. Now, so we know the nominal GDP growth, we know the interest rate. Now, see, we are mentioning the debt to in proportion to GDP. How we are calculating? The measure is, what is the government debt to GDP? What is the government debt to GDP? Now, GDP is increasing. GDP is increasing. Interest rate is not decreasing. Sorry, interest rate is not increasing. So, if you look into the difference between, so GDP is going and interest rate is under control, naturally what will happen? We can control we can sustain even if we are borrowing more, and since the GDP is growing, we can control the general or the government debt to GDP ratio. This is what it's saying. The difference, if you look into the differential, the difference between the interest rate and the growth rate, nominal GDP growth rate is minus. And always, even in the 1920 time period also, in 1920 also, but the difference is lower. So by having a negative between negative what? Interest rate, growth rate differential. This is interest rate, growth, negative interest, all are negative. What we were able to do is that we were able to control the government debt to GDP. See, it has moved between 67 to 73 only. In this, actually, why here? Why there have been an increase? Because the negative is reducing. So again, I am coming back to this point, okay. A more negative. If the negative is more, a more negative interest rate growth differential, it will lay the foundation for a lower general government debt as a proportion of GDP. They can cut copy the statement and ask you, which of the following features of this general government debt is correct? 1, 2, 3. If they give you the statement, you need to understand these terms. This is how UPSC will ask. So we have to think which all way the UPSC will ask question regarding this general government debt. They will ask you the trend. They will ask you the movement, how it has been moved, especially in the form of trend, and they can ask you these features. Till 1920 it was like this, 2021 what is the additional feature, and finally this point. This point is very, very important, okay. So that's regarding the trends in government finances. So it's over.